Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Stay with me.
Rama
Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Thank you. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pravikacharya Ashturta Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pravikacharya Ashturta Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Charya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Ananta Kohoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Pramanande All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Prabhupada. Naram Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Hirdayat Nasta Prayod Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Text 38, Chapter 2. Mamaham iti dehadau hitva mityarta dir matim dasye mano bhagavate shudam tad kirtana dibihi mamaham iti dehadau hitva mityarta dir matim dasye mano bhagavate shudam tad kirtana dibihi mamaham iti dihadau hitva mityarta dirmatim dasye mano bhagavate shudam tat kirtana dibbihi mamaham iti dihadau hitva mityarta dirmatim dasye mano bhagavate shudam tat kirtanadibihi mahamiti dehadau hitmanitamtim dasye mano bhagavate shudam tat kirtanadibihi mahamiti dehadau dasye mano bhagavate shudam tat kirtanadibihi amano hitam dehadau hitva miryata dirmatim dasya mano bhagavate shudam tat kirtanasiddhihi mamaham iti dehadau shudam tat kirtanadibihi. Like Mataji. Tasye mano bhagavati shudam tat kirtanadibihi mahamiti dehadau hitva mityarta dirbandim. Anyone else? Prakash Prabhu.
Mahamiti dehadau hitva mityarta dirmatim dasye mano bhagavati suddham tat
shudam tat kirtanadibihi. Synonyms: mama, my; aham, I; iti, thus; deha adau, in the body and things related to the body; hitva, giving up; amitya, not false; artha, on values; dihi, with my consciousness; matim, the attitude; dasye, I shall engage; manaha, my mind, Bhagavati, on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shuddham, pure, Tat, his name, Kirtina Adibhihi, by chanting, hearing, and so on. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Simply because I chanted the holy name of the Lord in the association of devotees, my heart is now becoming purified. Therefore I shall not fall victim again to the false lures of material sense gratification. Now that I have become fixed in the absolute truth, henceforward I shall not identify myself with the body. I shall give up false conceptions of I and mine, and fix my mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Purport. How a living entity becomes a victim of the material condition is lucidly explained in this verse. The beginning is to misidentify the body as oneself. Therefore, Bhagavad-gītā begins with the spiritual instruction that one is not the body, but is within the body. This consciousness can be possible only if one chants the holy name of Krishna, the Hare Krsna mahā-mantra, and always keeps oneself in the association of devotees. This is the secret of success. Therefore, we stress that one should chant the holy name of the Lord and keep oneself free from the contamination of this material world, especially the contaminations of lusty desires for illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. With determination, one should vow to follow these principles and thus be saved from the miserable condition of material existence. The first necessity is to become freed from the bodily concept of life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmiltam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karuti Vachalam Pangam Langaiti Girim Yarkipatam Maham Vande Shri Gurum Dintaranam. So we're discussing how a devotee has a change of heart. And what does change of heart mean? It means that he acknowledges that he did something wrong and he wants to rectify it. But in the Western world, there's no idea of, drinking is bad, smoking is bad, having illicit relationships is bad. This is the culture in the Western world. You know, growing up, my family is from the Philippines. And when we ate meat, no one told me that's wrong. Until I read one of Srila Prabhupada's books. And then when he told me how meat eating, there's a reaction to that. Not only that, but it creates miserable conditions for the animal that's being slaughtered by it. And then I learned about the soul. I learned about karma, how I'm going to kill you, but then you get a chance to kill me. So I didn't want that. So a change of heart. And if there's no change of heart, there's no question of regret. But Ajamila, he's regretting his past sinful activities. And the second part is that he doesn't want to fall back into those bad habits. And if a person doesn't know he's suffering, how will he make a change? a hog is eating, that wet, yummy stool, and if you tell them that's not very, I'm sorry? Yummy. That's what the hog is thinking. But when you tell them that's not very nutritious, take this halva, they'll refuse because they don't know any better. He doesn't know that he's suffering. But a human being, he can understand this is very nasty. I don't want to eat this. So then he can try to make preparations for Krishna, offer bhoga, then Krishna can take and it becomes prasadam. So suffering may be a good thing because there's an impetus to change, to search and look for solutions. I was at Balboa Park and this man had an interesting shirt. He said, "Am I perfect? No. Am I trying to be a better person? No." So he didn't want to change. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, I like your shirt," like that. So he said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And I asked him, "You don't want to be a better person?" He said, "No, I'm just wearing the shirt." So I said, "You take this book, And I offered him a small set. He said, "No, I'm not. I don't want to change my ways." So that's also the difficulty. You cannot teach an old dog new tricks, is the saying. So people have habits, people have conditions, they have lifelong, you can say, propensities towards certain things. And in the Mahabharata, Bhishma Dev, when he's speaking to his mother-in-law, Satyavati, he says, "Auspiciousness and victory always attends virtue, while grief is the sure result of unrighteousness." So when someone is suffering, you can see that's the result of their impious activities. Whereas someone that's so-called enjoying is due to his past pious activities. And the idea of atonement, but the desire is still there, it doesn't make any sense. So what's the solution? Chanting the holy names. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva, gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there's no other means of deliverance than chanting the holy names, chanting the holy names, chanting the holy names of Lord Hari. So what does chanting do? When we go out on book distribution and when we offer them chant and be happy, they ask that question. What is this chanting? What will it do? So it not only does it eradicate the reactions to our sinful actions, but by chanting it also purifies the heart and the desires. It takes the root out of our desire. Just like gardening. Maharaj, he always uses this example. A gardener, he does two things. He plants the seeds, and at the same time he uproots the weeds. And weeds, they're actually very persistent. You may cut it, you may burn it, but if the root is still there, it grows again. And it can even grow between cracks. So you have to take the root out. So similarly, there's many processes of atonement, but they're not getting to the cause of it. And Srila Prabhupada, he says, we are born in darkness. Our heart is full of darkness. This material world is full of darkness. And without Krishna's mercy, without the sun, the moon, without electricity, we'd be in a cold and dark world. Srila Prabhupada was interviewed, and I think you guys know this. So they asked, what is hell? And Srila Prabhupada said, London is hell. He says it's cold, it's moist, So he said, this is hell. And he made it in the front page. So in the association of devotees, Ajamila is saying that my heart is now being purified. So association is very important. There's a saying that a man is known by the company he keeps, and that means that a person is similar to the people he chooses to spend time with. He will have the same character and moral standards as those he chooses to surround himself. With. So, before I was a devotee, all of my friends, they didn't know any better, and I didn't know any better. So when people saw us, they would give us away on the streets, oh, here comes trouble. But when you see devotees, you think, oh, here's some nice monks. But then again, there's some people that still want to give us, what's it called, a wide girth, you know. They want to stay away from us. So our association plays a big part in our Krishna consciousness. And Maharaj, he uses this example. That in the Olympics, how do they train?
Hard.
Let's say a runner.
Hard.
Okay, they train hard. But let's say someone who's a sprinter, he trains with someone that's faster than him. You know, he pushes him, he inspires him. So the person trains with someone who's faster and better than him, and then he can influence him to train harder, to push him. So similarly, we should associate with those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness. Before I'm still trying to be a devotee, but waking up, that was so hard. And when I first started coming to the temple room to chant, I would wake up at 4 o'clock, and I was thinking, you know, I can get 4 rounds in. And then I said, that feels nice, so let me wake up a little bit earlier. I woke up at 3:30, and I said, wow, I got 8 rounds done. And then I knew that Vijay Prabhu, he wakes up around 1:30, 2 o'clock. And I said, wow. And then when I came here, Maharaj is already here by 3 o'clock. And I said, if Maharaj can do it, why can't I? So I started waking up earlier and earlier. And Dimitri, he's also waking up very early now. And so we wake up, we chant, and so I now developed this taste for waking up early. And the same as book distribution. Book distribution is an austerity. And anyone who has tried it, there's a lot of no's. So next time I go on book distribution, I'm actually going to count how many no's I get. So, and book distribution, the person that inspired me was His Grace Vijay Prabhu. I asked him this question. I remember when I was shadowing him, I said, you get a lot of no's, does it ever discourage you? And Vijay Prabhu, he started laughing. He said, no. So after that, I started taking that mood that, you know, Krishna says among hundreds and thousands of men, only one will endeavor for perfection. So not many people are interested, but if you can distribute a book to them, Prabhupada says they get a chance, you know, to get benefit. And chanting the holy names, Srila Prabhupada, he mentions that it takes 1,000 names of Vishnu to equal to 1 name of Ram. And 3 names of Ram is equal to 1 name of Krishna, or the name Krishna. And so, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're chanting Krishna's name 16 times, or 108 times, and 16 rounds. So we can only imagine the benefit that we're having. But we don't realize that. We're so unfortunate. We don't take this nice blessing, and we see it as a chore sometimes, as a burden, you know. So we should take advantage. And Srila Prabhupada said there's no fast and hard rules for it. It doesn't matter what one is, what varna or ashram you're in, wherever you're at in life, it doesn't matter, just chant. And Srila Prabhupada, he narrates the story that he saw a cartoon in New York, a cartoon picture. And the old man was sitting with his wife, and the wife was requesting to the husband, chant, chant, chant. And the husband is saying, can't. So, and on book distribution, you try this mantra, chant Hare Krishna, and then they won't say it. They'll close their mouth, you know, they think it's some type of curse or some voodoo or something like that. And so, with his free will, the old man is saying, can't. But it's the same as Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, he says that there's a similar Bengal story. There was an old mother, and she was about to die. And so the son requested to her, my dear mother, please chant Hare Krishna. And so after trying twice or 3 times, the mother, she said something that had more than 5 words. And then so she said, I cannot chant so many words. So Hare Krishna is just 2 words. So that's the difficulty. We have a thankless task of inducing, influencing, persuading others to chant Hare Krishna. But they'll try anything and everything to try to be happy. But when we ask them to chant, they refuse. And so insanity means doing the same thing but expecting a different result. How many times have we took birth in this material world? How many times have we tried eating, sleeping, and mating in different forms and so-called sophisticated, polished ways? But we're not really happy. So someone may ask, I know a devotee, he was chanting Hare Krishna, but somehow or other he stopped chanting and he doesn't come around anymore. Why? Right? So then the answer is Daivesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Krishna is saying that this material energy, this divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes is difficult to overcome. See, the mind, people have attachments to some form of sense gratification, so they give up chanting. I was distributing books in Ocean Beach a while ago, and I met this interesting young man, and he said, I used to do that. And I said, you used to chant Hare Krishna? He said, yeah. And I said, what happened? He said, I found a newer, what did he say? A new form of yoga, And so I said, what happened? And then he mentioned a woman, and I said, oh, that's it right there. No. So how strong is Krishna's illusory energy? And usually involves a woman or some sense gratification. Just like that, we've seen people come and go. They do some service. Somehow or other, they hook up with someone else and then they stop coming here. So that's an unfortunate situation. But still, we should go out and we should try to preach Krishna consciousness to the world. In the purport, it mentions I and mine. So when I go on book distribution, when they're a little thoughtful, I ask them, who are you? And 90% of them, they say, I don't even know. So the example is a math equation. If someone is solving an equation, and if that first step is wrong, he can work so hard at this equation. But the conclusion is wrong because the first step is wrong. And so if they don't know who they are, how do they have a chance to break free from this cycle of birth and death? And so I ask people also, what's the biggest illusion in this world? People say, what illusion? They think this is reality. So I tell them the biggest illusion is that whatever we have in life, we think we can keep that and bring it in our next life. People work so hard to get a nice house, to get a nice car, this and that. But in the back of their mind, they know they can't keep it. But they're an illusion, so they think I'm gonna be able to bring this with me. In the purport, it says, with determination, we should vow to follow these principles and thus be saved from the miserable condition of material existence. When a devotee begins to be more serious, he seeks out a bona fide spiritual master. And then upon initiation, he recites his vows. What are those vows, Bhakta Soul?
No gambling, illicit sex, eating with meat.
Japa. So no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, and to chant 16 quality rounds. These are the vows that we take. And then if a person is qualified or somewhat qualified, he can take second initiation to be able to go on the altar to render direct service to our deities. And who cares about me, but every time I put the deities to rest, I massage their feet, And it's very nice to meditate on them. And in the purport, it was mentioning how Ajamila is saying, my mind is fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada says this is the beginning of meditation. to meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna, and then gradually you go upward. And then you see Krishna's lotus face. And then Srila Prabhupada, he would always discourage reading the 10th canto directly and going straight to the Rasa Leela. There was a devotee here, a bhakta here. He said, "Can I get the 10th canto?" And I said, "Why do you want the 10th canto?" And he said, "Oh, I wanna read about the Rasa Leela." So I told him, you actually have to read it systematically. First canto, second canto, and then you can read the 10th canto. So people are so eager to go straight to the Rasa Leela because they think Krishna is like himself, a lusty rascal. Right? And so initiation, when we take our vows, is actually very important. It protects us from these propensities to go back to our old life, you know. And I promised Bhakti Tyler that I'll say this, that being a devotee is so much fun, you know. We chant, we dance, we take prasadam, we learn about scripture, we associate with devotees. And Srila Prabhupada said, if you're not happy in Krishna consciousness, you're doing something wrong. Our whole movement is recreation. And so there's an example. Someone who's never been to America, he doesn't know what America is or how America is. Someone can explain to him. There's wide roads, there's bridges that connects, you know, one city to another city. There's fast cars, there's this, there's beaches. So a person that's born in a poverty-restricted country has this, on the inside he wants to visit America, right? I want to see this place. Because he doesn't know any better. So when the conditioned soul hears about Krishna's abode, how Krishna says, there's no use of the sun, there's no need of that supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun, moon, electricity, or fire. Someone should become inquisitive about this abode of Krishna, right? What do you mean there's no sun? There's no need of the moon, electricity, or fire. So Srila Prabhupada, he says that we're now living artificial lives, artificial lighting, electricity. 12 o'clock at night, people are still walking, trying to find, you know, that Mr. Right, Mrs. Right. And then they're eating at times that they shouldn't be eating. And so when one hears about this description of Krishna's abode, we should become very interested. There's no birth, there's no death, there's no old age. Life there is eternal. And we are peacefully and ecstatically rendering service to Krishna. I was distributing books, and there was this one lady. I called her over. I said, "Excuse me, miss, you look very intelligent. Do you like to read?" She said, "Yeah, I'm pretty intelligent." So you got to puff them up first. So she came to my table. I said, "What's the purpose of life?" And she said, "I haven't thought about that." I said, "You haven't thought about that?" So I told her, "Why don't you read this book, The Journey of Self-Discovery?" And I told her, this will teach you who you are, what the purpose of life is, and what is the goal. So she looked at it, and she flipped through the cover, and there's that nice picture of you know, the cycle of birth and death. The body changes, and it goes back to an old like that. And she said, "What is this book about?" So I told her, "It's about you." You know, I told her, "You seem very intelligent materially, but you have no idea about the spiritual world." You know, I told her, "You don't want to grow old, do you?" And she said, "No." And I said, "You don't want to die?" And she said, "I don't want to die." So I said, "Why don't you read this book, and then it'll help you get to that eternal world." And she was a little hesitant, so I pushed her again, you know. I said, "We're not salesperson, we just ask for a donation." And she said, "Oh, okay." So they're convinced, and then the second difficulty is asking for a donation, right? People are willing to pay $5 for a cup of coffee. 3 times a day, that's $15. But when you ask for $5, they say no. So that's the difficulty. So there's a story. There was a room full of intelligent, thoughtful people, and they were discussing different topics. So one person asked, "Who is the most miserable and unhappy person in the world?" And people thought, someone who's in poverty is considered to be very unhappy. Someone that has health problems is considered to be very unhappy. And there was a man, he said, a person that's envious is the most unhappy. So everyone started, asking, why do you say that? Because envy, it means that Dharma Setsu Prabhu, he was discussing this, envy. Because when a person sees another person is doing better than him, he hates that. He can't tolerate it. When someone is in a better position than himself, he's envious of that. So his life is very hellish, that mentality of thinking, I always have to be better than this person. What do they call it? Unhealthy comparison. You compare yourself to others. And so he says there's 3 types of people in this world. One that's more resourceful than you, one that has equal resources than you, and one that has less resources than you. And how does a materialistic person see those people? When a person sees someone that has more than him, what does he do? He envies him, And then someone who has equal resources than him, what does he do? He competes with them. I want to be better than this person. And someone that has less resources, how does he treat him? Exploits, cheats this person. So these are the 3 different people. But a devotee, how does he see the same situation? When he sees someone more than him. Okay, he gives him respect, he takes guidance from him, and he renders service to him. And when he sees someone equal to him, how does he treat him? Friendship. He makes friendship with them. And when he sees someone less qualified than him, how does he treat this person? Compassion, mercy. So Maharaj, he told me, would we rather live in a world where there's envy, unhealthy competition, exploitation, cheaters, or do we want to live in a world where we can learn, grow, make friendship, and mercy? So we have these we have these choices that we can make in life. So I'd like to share a few stories. Srila Prabhupada says that someone that's a material consciousness, he may be very highly educated in material means, but he has no good qualities. He's teaching at universities, but he's drinking, he's smoking, he's trying to have some relationship with his students. Whereas a little, devotee, he has good qualities, right? Like little Mukunda here. Big Mukunda and little Mukunda. And so, a devotee, a little child, when you ask him questions like, who are you, what is the purpose of life, he knows how to answer these. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. What is the purpose of life? To develop that dormant love for Krishna, that eternal love for Krishna. So there was a student, or there was a teacher. This teacher gave all of his students an apple. And he said, go and eat this where someone is not looking. So all the little boys, they scattered. One hid in a cave, one hid in a bush, one hid underwater. Different ways to try to eat this apple. And at the end of the day, all the students came back except one student. And when the teacher asked him, why didn't you eat this apple? The student said, how can I eat it? The sun is watching me. The 10 directions are watching me. The insects are watching me. And then he said, the Paramatma is watching me. So a devotee, he knows all of this, that he's never alone. So he's cautious of what he's doing in life. And so the teacher, he was very pleased. He said, this student understood the teachings. And so in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna says, Diyutam chalayatam asmi. Krishna says, I'm also the cheating of gambling of cheats. So in the Mahabharata, Bhima was supposed to fight Duryodhana. And Duryodhana, he was told by his mother to come see him early in the morning, naked. because his mother Gandhari, she had blindfolded herself. And so Prabhupada says anyone that performs austerities, he becomes powerful. So she had some powers. She was going to turn Duryodhana's body into iron. So he was going to be able to defeat Bhima. But when Krishna understood this, Krishna said, "Where are you going, Duryodhana? So I'm going to go see my mother." So Krishna says, "Oh, you can't see your mother naked. You should cover yourself." So he had a little lungi covering himself, and when Gandhari folded her blinds, when she took her blindfold off, she noticed that Duryodhana was wearing that loincloth, or that piece of cloth covering his waist down. So he said, "Why did you do this, son? I told you to come naked. My intention was to turn your body into iron." So Duryodhana said, "Oh, Krishna told me." So Gandhari smiled and she said, "No one can cheat Krishna." And another instance was that Srila Prabhupada said there was war etiquette. During the day they would fight like crazy, enemies killing each other. But in the evening, they're like best friends, So Duryodhana, he promised Arjuna, he said, "Whatever you ask, I'll give it to you." So Bhishma Dev, Duryodhana was upset at Bhishma Dev because he said, "You're protecting the Pandavas, you're not fighting your hardest." So then Bhishma Dev said, "I promise tomorrow I have these 5 arrows, I'm going to kill all the 5 Pandavas." So he kept that with them. And then he gave it to Duryodhana actually. So Arjuna was advised by Krishna, go see Duryodhana and ask for these 5 arrows. So when Arjuna went to Duryodhana said, "What can I do for you? What can I give you?" So he said, "You have these 5 arrows, please give it to me." And Duryodhana didn't hesitate. He gave him the 5 arrows. So Krishna saved the Pandavas by taking those 5 arrows from Duryodhana, which was meant for Bhishma Dev to kill them. So we can't cheat Krishna. Krishna is in all of our hearts. And then, and so we should always keep oneself in the association of devotees. It will save us from a lot of downfall. And so keep that in mind. We're surrounded by nice, exalted devotees. And so I'll talk a little bit about the Christmas marathon. The Christmas marathon, or the Prabhupada marathon, is going to begin tomorrow. And a lot of devotees are going to go out and do their part. Mukunda Charana Prabhu, Mogalila Prabhu, Bhakta Saul, even Joseph and Mani Bandini, they're going to go out and distribute books. And so the devotees, we're going to try to go out 7 days a week, Vijay? If possible, 7 days a week for 8 hours, going out there and trying to distribute these books. And it's not that, we're aiming for some number, but we really want to try to distribute as many as we can before the New Year's. And then when we can celebrate. So those that want to help, that are maybe working, you can contribute, you can sponsor books, and we'll distribute on your behalf. Dhanuvari Mataji, she's very wonderful. She's getting all these different people to donate, so the devotees don't have to worry about asking for donation or worry about how much we're getting. And so we should go out and try to distribute Srila Prabhupada's literature. And it's also giving them a chance to become free from these entanglements, sinful activities, things like that. Okay, that's all I have. Any questions, comments, corrections, chastisement, addition? Bhakta Joseph?
You mentioned, Prabhupada mentioned hell as being like a city, a cold, dark city. I thought hell was hot and on another place, but it sounded like hell's on earth. I don't know.
So Srila Prabhupada, he didn't like the cold. And so, yeah. And yeah, a lot of, you can say the Christian theology or the ideas that hell is some burning place. I mean, there's different hellish planets. But on this particular instance, Srila Prabhupada responded like that. That London is hell for me. It's cold, it's gloomy, you know.
And hell is uncomfortable.
Hell is uncomfortable.
So cold is also uncomfortable.
Okay, so just my comment, I love the Rockies because there's nobody there, and it's heaven on earth, and so I feel like hell's right outside the door here. I mean, it is. I'm irritated by it, but thank God there's the temple here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the devotees in the temple. I'd be lost in the woods, and probably would die from it. It's very rough out there, and the Colorado River, is very deep and fast, and I won't go back again. No, I'll stay here.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. We're very glad that you're here also. Prakash?
Prabhu, thanks for the wonderful class. Prabhu, in the verse, it says like he says, simply because I chanted the holy name of the Lord, in the association of devotees, my heart is now becoming purified. But from the story, I understand when he chanted the name of the Lord, he was alone or he was on his deathbed.
Now the Yamadutas were there.
Okay.
There are
So,
devotees.
okay, that's what I wanted to ask, like the Yamadutas, where they, considered devotees.
Yamadutas and Vishnudutas.
No, the Vishnudutas came after he chanted the name, so I understand.
And also,
Yeah.
you chanted in association, but the Vishnudutas weren't there. No.
Yeah, the Yamadutas are there. Yamaraj is a great devotee. They're devotees of Yamaraj. They're not devotees. They're careful.
But they didn't know anything about Vishnu, it seemed.
They didn't know about the power of the holy name, but they
Can you give Brother Prabhu?
Yeah, they were faithfully serving Yamaraj, who's Dharmaraj. The Yamadutas. The Yamadutas are faithfully serving Yamaraj. Who else was it? Who else was there? Just in association of devotees.
So no matter what, we'll leave with the association of devotees.
By that context, even Maya or even anyone or anything might be considered as.
Don't speculate.
But I think in the association of devotees, it means devotees of Krishna, no?
You're a devotee of the devotee of Krishna, you're not a devotee.
Krishna says, he says he's my devotee. He's not my devotee, he says he's the devotee.
My devotee.
He's my devotee.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. By the example of Ajamila, you can think that I can do whatever I want, and then at the end of the life, I just remember Krishna and everything gonna be alright. But Ajamila, he didn't get like liberation or went back to spiritual world just because he remember his son's name, but he has to come back and purify himself to go back home, back to Godhead. So how can you tell people that they have to keep their lives pure and try to be better every single day?
Thank you, Mataji. So a lot of people, they'll try to use that, I could do whatever I want, and at the time of death, I'm going to chant Krishna's name. But if you're committing so much bad activities, how would you remember to chant Krishna's name? And also, he didn't go back to Godhead, but he was given a second chance. And also, see, Ajamila, he uttered the name Narayan inoffensively, and it wasn't pure, but it was namabas, and so that saved him. Whereas a person that's doing sinful activities on the strength of chanting, that's actually one of the 10 offenses. Number 7, chants.
The problem is set off in the greatest offense.
So as devotees, we should, like what Ajamila was saying, to regret our past sinful activities and to try to not do them again. You know, and we shouldn't use that. What's that verse?
What's it about? Right?
There's no loss or diminution.
Oh.
Kamanashosti pratyabayo navidyate swapamapyasya dhammasya trayate mahatobhaya.
Yeah. So they shouldn't use that verse as an excuse, you know. I did a little bit of devotional service, so in my next life or after this life, I'll be situated in a Dravida Prabhu, he always says, why do you want to stall your, going back home, back to Godhead? Why do you want to prolong it?
Prolong the agony.
Prolong
That's
the agony,
phrase in
yeah.
English.
And we don't know when we're going to take our last breath. It could be within the next hour, 2 hours. So we shouldn't have that mindset that, oh, I'm also a devotee, I'm saved. Yes, we have confidence, but at the same time we should feel very humble and regretful that we turn our back against Krishna. Do you want to add something to that?
I just wanted to add one little story about hell. Prabhupada tells the story of, in England, there's a lot of coal mines there, so the priest there, the Catholic priest, was preaching amongst the coal miners. And he was trying to get him to be serious, so he was saying, oh, if you don't, give up sin and everything, then you're going to be sent to hell. And what's hell like, they ask. But here Prabhupada says, well, it's very, very dark, it's very cold, it's very dirty. But they were already doing that every day in the coal mine, so they didn't care. But he said, and there's no newspapers. He said, oh, Prabhupada said, oh, horrible, horrible.
I think there's another story. Someone was describing, if you drink alcohol, you're going to go to hell. So this person said, oh, my father drank alcohol. So he's in hell. My uncle is drinking, so your uncle's in hell, So my brother is drinking, so your brother is in hell. So I said, they're all in hell, like, I want to join them. So it's heaven, there you go, it's heaven. Yeah. But they don't know the sufferings that Yamaraj is going to give them. Anything else?
Yeah, I have one thing.
Okay.
I had a comment and a question. It's nice for glorify Donavari. She's very fired up. Her spiritual master is a nice book distributor, and she's embodied that mood. If there's householders and they want to go out, especially if they're in the Indian community or they're new, they just call Donavari, and she arranges it and goes out with them and fires them up. So not only is she collecting donations and distributing books, she's inspiring others to distribute books when they don't have the Adhikar yet to do so. I talked about that we should be associating with devotees of different sort of calibers. I remember there was a ratio that we had heard before. I want to make sure it's true and ask you why you think it was these percentages. But it was saying like 50% of our time we should spend with advanced devotees, 25% with equal level devotees, and then 25% with devotees that are junior to us. Have you heard that? And then do you know why?
I'm not too sure.
Do you know what's...
Never heard it.
Oh, yeah?
Well, Ramnath Swami gave those breakdown. It wasn't a Shastri point. As far as I heard him say. He gave that in a talk one time.
Yeah, because I was wondering why that would be the formula. Because we had heard it one time come up here. I don't know who quoted it. Or maybe, Bhakti Saul? All right, there it is. Well, I don't know if that's... Because we were talking compassion and friendship, and I was thinking, okay, well, the 50% was senior devotees. I don't know.
I'm not so sure Ramnath Swami was saying it as like, should be your understanding, but as far as I remember him saying it, he was giving like that suggestion, like, yeah, spend time with everyone, but spend, more time, I thought it was more like that, that's what I remember.
Okay, good.
I spend a lot of time with myself, so I don't know.
Okay, well, at least I didn't conjure it. It exists. Okay, so okay, that's all good. But thank you for talking about how we should regard people in different positions, and, it's good to be friends with everyone. Get it? Haha.
I just found this topic about relationships with devotees in different aspects. One advanced friendship, and then somebody who. My question is that somebody considers them a devotee, they're naturally humble and they have some humility. So they wouldn't, how would you see somebody kind of on the lesser plane than you that needs to, because you say like, oh, I'm so fallen that everybody's so advanced. So therefore, I treat everybody with respect. Although it's true, but it's saying like, how would I develop a friendship because you're not equal to me and because I'm so fallen, you know? This person's not lower, like I can't help him because I'm so fallen. Everybody, you know, is a devotee in great caliber than myself. So I was wondering how can you... yeah.
Just try to serve the devotees, you know, somehow or other. But that's a good point to see that everyone's more qualified than us. That's the nice view. Did that answer your question? Yeah, just render some service to them. Like I remember hearing that even if you somehow or other get into a conflict with the devotee, you know, you should fall down and just do some menial service for that person, and then, you know, you'll be forgiven.
Can I sweep your room?
Okay. Thank you for your time. Grand Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.